Okay. I just realized I didn't put on music. I need music. Okay, we're back. I needed music. I had to put on music. I couldn't think about anything else. Coffee again. Yeah. So how's everybody else doing? It started snowing again today. We're in late March now, and this usually happens. Actually, my birthday's coming up in April, and usually snow, usually blizzard. Usually it's a blizzard. Let's get right into it. I've been playing Star of Providence from Big Mode and D13. And I gotta say, that game stands up. That game stands up really well. I really enjoy that it's like such a critical bullet hell experience. Like there's just so much happening. Like you're just overwhelmed the whole time. It just feels really good. I like the mechanics. I like the trading, the risk versus reward. It's actually such a fun experience. I actually don't know what else I can say about this game other than that it's like really fun and that you should play it. That's my review. 5 stars. Play the game. I also updated my blog. It was a tiny update, very tiny. It was an update that was like 2 paragraphs, and it was just the sprite that I uploaded and his movement animations, his 4 frames of animation. Also mentioned YouTube stuff because I'm doing that, and I think that's pretty much that. It's a small one. I really enjoyed starting the blog, and I enjoy putting ideas there. But I'm swiftly realizing that it's like hard to upkeep it. Like people who upkeep blogs, I think that they do like either daily posting or monthly, like long periods. Writing takes a lot out of you. Writing is actually it's kind of intense. Writing is a bit tough. It's a lot easier to talk, I think, because I can just run my mouth and just words happen and it's good, you know? It's not like if you're writing something, there's like this pretense that you need to like actually write something critical and it needs to follow a structure and it needs to flow. Actually, when I was learning French, this was really important too, because they talk about oral French versus written French and how you're going to speak differently depending on what you're doing. I mean, in English, we do the same thing, but like you don't think about it as hard because a lot of people write, write how they would speak, and that's not a really big deal for us unless you're like in professional environments or, academic, or you're actually like doing a job that's like requires you writing, because then you need to actually like hit those marks. But yeah, here people can kind of just speak however they want to, and that's fine. I think life is pretty good right now, which is funny because it feels like everything is kind of crazy, but it feels like everything's good. Everything's good but crazy. I kind of like it. Except for Goblin. Goblin has been peeing on the floor, and I don't know why. And it's freaky. Because I don't know what the heck's going on with him. This brings me to another point. The experience of an experience. What does that mean? Recently, I saw a TikTok, and this guy he made a TikTok about how he was playing an indie game that changed his entire life. And the TikTok was just a side profile of him at his computer. You couldn't see the computer, but you saw a side profile of him, but not what was on a screen. And it was like colors flashing on him, and like, like the blue would flash and he'd be sad, and then like pink would flash and he'd be happy, and then like red would flash and he'd be angry. And it's like, he was trying to illustrate this point that like you play this random indie game, and then it like profoundly changes you because it's something that you've never seen before, or something that really opens your eyes. I'm like, hey, what's up? Since your pretty eyes, soon as you came in the door, I just wanna chill, got a circle across the road. Now me to the money, introduced her to my stove. Showed her how to. And I get that experience. That has happened to me before. I've gotten that before. And it's profound. It's a beautiful experience when you get to see somebody else's creative expression and it changes you. And honestly, I feel a little bit perturbed that he was like selling the experience of that experience. That like, rather than talking about the thing itself, whatever game it was, whatever experience he had, rather than explaining that, he chose to outline the experience of what that experience was like through his own lens. And that kind of, I wouldn't say that it bothered me, but I kind of felt weird about it, because it seems like he's valuing having that experience more than the actual experience itself. Does that make sense? That he was like more invested in other people seeing that he had that experience than actually having that experience. That to me screams spectacle in such a way. Like, that to me screams, I am having the unified experience of my peers. And that sounds nice, but I don't think it's nice. Like, I think what was so, I don't know, what challenged me so hard about it was that like, I can't see myself making a video about what it's like to experience a game. I would rather just play the game and experience that. This actually has got me thinking about a lot of things I've done and a lot of things I do currently. As you all know, I journal a lot. I'm a writer, so I've got a lot of ideas going through here, and I put them on paper, and like, that is a reflective experience of what I'm doing. So that's me expressing the experience of something. That's like the two-step, kind of the same thing that he did, where he had like the expression of what that experience was for him. And I think what made it kind of like, I acknowledge that I do that for myself, but that's a me experience. Like, I've shared my writing with other people when it was important to, when it was critical for communication or for understanding, or like, I needed them to see something about me, or something about them, whatever it was. But like, I've never done that. Well, I've uploaded my writing to TikTok before, and so that kind of is like that. Like, that would be an experience that's like reflective of another. It's like a secondary experience that you're trying to give to someone else. So that kind of is it. But I'm really curious about this because something about it felt off. Like something about it felt like it was, I don't know. It was like predatory or something. It was like indoctrination-y. I don't know. I can't like pin it. That's why I'm talking about it. It's just it freaked me out. I also think about I recently uploaded a Rain World video of me playing that game. And my intention with that is that I know people don't want to play that game because of how it is. People don't want to play it because it's challenging or because they don't have patience for it or it's not what they're used to or whatever. And so my idea was that I would play the game for people because I want them to understand something about it that affected me. So is that different? Is that different than like creating a specialized video on TikTok about your experience with a game? To do that instead of um, actually giving somebody the secondhand experience of experiencing it. Like, one of them is giving somebody a story about the thing, and one of them is giving them the actual story. Like there's it's two steps removed from one. One of them is like you get to secondhand experiences. It's like I'm sitting in the same room as you and we're both experiencing this. Since it's uploaded as a video, it's different times, but you and I are having the same visual experience, just separated by time. I think I just get really worried about like I think it's the spectacle of it. It's that somebody is performing a type of life and it seems like they want other people to have that life. And so it seems like they're selling you something. Like it seems like they're packaging up an identity into a TikTok and selling that to people as if that's like what they should be doing or what they, what they would benefit from having. But like it's not their experience. Like there's no guarantee that they're going to have that experience. It's like the person who made it has packaged up like a commercial experience into a media format and then given it to someone else and said, hey, if you do this, this is what will happen to you. So in some ways, I think it's marketing. I mean, marketing insofar that it's advertising an idea. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're purchasing anything. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend money to view it. But it kind of does feel like advertising concepts are leaking into every creative medium. Have you ever thought about commerce as an independent agent? Like as a acting force of its own will? I've had this idea a couple of times actually. There's a couple of forces in my life that I think sometimes it feels like they have their own will, like they have their own expression, conscious, voluntary expression, and it's just that we don't see it as a conscious experience, that we can't, like, we think that we're in control of it because it doesn't have a human form or a material form. In one of my philosophy courses, the prof explained to us I forget what the term is. I'll look it up. Anyway, it's basically that technology is its own acting force, is its own willful, conscious acting force, and that we are at the whim of it, that we don't have control over it, that it continues to develop on its own without us being consciously in control of it or aware of it, because we just keep allowing it to happen. And whether or not that's like on us, or you know, it could be some sort of conscious will or force, doesn't really, that's not even in the question at this point. It's just that it keeps happening. The example he gave, if I can explain this without butchering it, was that so the advancement of technology is on its own, you know, path. It's developing itself. So like you've got bread, for instance, where societies and cultures have been making bread for thousands and thousands of years. And most bread from most cultures, though it is very different in representation, is basically the same thing. It's like a starch, a broken down starch, like flour, right? Water, sometimes yeasts, most of the time yeast, sometimes not. And it's baked or fried or cooked in some way. It's like literally those three components that cooked. That's bread. And for the most part, bread is pretty recognizable across the world. However, in the industrialization of North America and of Europe, I should just say of Earth, we saw bread being made by machines. And that type of bread evolved into something that no longer actually represents bread. This is a weird example, I know, but it has a point. So when you think of bread today, oftentimes you think about like Wonder Bread, like the cheapest product you can get, right? And it's like a spongy white or brown loaf, but it has basically no characteristics of traditional bread. Because traditional bread has a crust that's like chewy, you know? Traditional bread has large holes on the inside because it had an active yeast in it, or it had something producing air, and that gives way to the structure of it, and that makes it spongy, but not like a sponge. And the really weird thing is that when you kind of think of it, that like let's say you had a loaf of white bread that you bought from the store, Dempster's, I'm calling out Dempster's right now. If it was unsliced and you cut the top off when it was still in a pan, that bread would look exactly like a cake. Despite this, we call it bread. So when you think about this, we have decided to call this thing bread because technology has allowed us to make it that way. In such an efficient manner, so quickly, so cleanly. And it fulfills the requirements of that definition for what we use it for and what we think of, despite not being what we call it. The march of technology, therefore, strips things of their meaning. in favor of what is fast and cheap. So if we apply this to this TikTok I'm talking about, we see a young man advertising the experience of a game. Not the experience itself, but the experience of the game. Any game, of an indie game. But for why? For why does he do this? If technology is an acting force of its own will, its purpose in making bread cheap and simple seems to be efficiency. If a guy on TikTok packages and sells the experience of an indie game, what is his goal? Can you tell me what his goal is? Do you think what I know the goal is, or what I think the goal is it's the expression of another idea that is unsaid, but that is necessary to fulfill the requirements of that environment. Let me say that differently. It's yes, Goblin. Yes, Goblin. Goblin, I'm talking about ideas. Do you want to join me? Do you want to join me? I'm trying to figure something out. You gonna join? You gonna sniff the air? Okay, we'll let him be. So, I was saying it a different way. This young man made a TikTok to express the idea to his peers and to the wider internet space that he had an experience with an indie game. Not the experience, that he had the experience. Which doesn't actually explain if he had the experience or not. He maybe could have never played a game at all, but he was telling people that he had. He could have never touched a game, ever, but heard somebody say that they had this experience and then intuited that that would be a valuable thing for him to have experienced, and then created a TikTok explaining that he had had that experience. I think I'm reaching a verdict. I'm reaching a verdict here. I think that what really bothers me about this is that nobody can prove what they've done. On the internet, you can be anything, even a dog. On the internet, nobody knows that you're a fish.